Okay, good morning. Just to give you a bit of an update who I am, my name is Michael Goldie. I am the assistant head at Hamilton. I work there for 3 days, and then for 2 days I work for the DFE doing all the EdTech stuff. So Armfield have now signed up to the EdTech demonstrator project, and my job is to sort of support you in all your needs. It can be SEN, if you need any support with teaching and learning with technology, we can do that. So I put together like a set of key deliverables, and on there we try and hit those key deliverables to support the academy throughout the next 6 months. If there's any extra support you need, it's sort of like a working document, we can add things to it and go from there. Okay, so today, just a bit of an introduction I've just done there, we're going to look at some of the tools and platforms that support those learners with additional needs, how you can support whole school, what support you can use within the classroom, especially in regards to using the Google Workspace for Education. And then at the end of that, we'll look at what next and what you can do to try and facilitate that and use that in the school itself. So a bit of a quote from Gavin Williamson here. And this really signals our vision for the future of technology in education beyond COVID, making sure that digitally agile teaching becomes the standard and not the exception, and that we continue to stretch ourselves to make the most of what technology can offer us. So, you know, in the first phase of lockdown, you know, we all managed to get online, we all managed to offer remote learning in some way, shape or form, but a lot of schools now in a position where they're stopping that. You know, they're back in school, let's just get back to normal, but it shouldn't be that way. We should be able to then continue with that learning offer, you know, with a digital transformation within schools. And I know today you want to look at how can you do that with all your sort of SEN needs. Hopefully I'll give you a bit of an input into that and give you some demonstrations on how you can use it, a bit of a toolkit in a way. So first of all, look at some tools and platforms which can support your learning. So there's loads and loads of tools out there that you can actually use. You'd probably be aware of a lot of things which Microsoft have to offer, but what you don't realise is that Google Docs and all the Workspace for Education area offer all the same sort of accessibility features for Google as well. There are things like text to speech. You have all the literacy skills which are included with accessibility features in there. There are translator options and dual coding as well, which I think is really important for those children who, you know, if you give them a piece of text to them, it may as well be in a different language. So using images to support that can really help, and we'll talk a bit about that in a small while. Okay, support within the classroom. So what can you use? There are tools such as Google Drive Scan, and what that enables you to simply do is you can use a mobile device or an iPad that has your Google Drive in there, and when you try and upload or scan a document, what it will do is it will pick up all the text. Once it picks up all the text, it will then turn it into a PDF and it can read the words. Not only can it read it, it can then read the words back to the person as well if they do need it, and that's quite a powerful tool to use if you get it right and you use it right. There's also things like you've got Translate in PowerPoint and Word. I put those on as well, but I'm just scanning over them because later on we're going to really look at the tools within Google Docs, to be honest with you. This is a great one as well. It's the live captions. Live captions are amazing, especially in Google Meet, and you can simply turn them on. You can even change the language now so that when you're speaking, the captions come up immediately. You can turn them into different languages. Really powerful tool, something that is quite a recent development with Google Meet. You can also, there's an element that they're going to put into it in the next few months that Google are working on, that there'll be a live captions editor so you can speak into it on different documents as well with Google. Dictation, really powerful. I'm going to demonstrate how that works in a bit as well. And then you've also got Google Translate. You'll probably be really familiar with these. But I'm going to show you today some third-party apps that you can use in Google Docs that really support things like Google Translate quite a lot. And this may help the children with EAL. It takes every language you think of in the world. You can highlight the text and it will convert that immediately for you once it's switched on, and I'll sort of demonstrate that in a short while. Okay, and then obviously there are some add-ons with Word and PowerPoint as well. I'll just sort of scan over these because although we are, as FCAT, we are a Google Academy Trust, we still use PowerPoint and Word quite a bit. I certainly do. I mean, I use Google Drive File Stream on my laptop, but then I also still use a lot of Word and PowerPoint as well because, you know, we sort of flip between both of them. So in here, there's loads of different things you can use. You can incorporate into here, which is great, something called the Noun Project. And you can embed this in and this creates all these little icons, which you can embed all these little icons and tools. So if you were, for example, creating an objective for your students, for those students who have those needs and they really struggle with understanding the text, you can use these icons, and I'll show you which icons might help you in a short while to actually make them think, right, okay, this is what I'm doing. Okay. Why? So ideas are objects, okay, that's the way we sort of need to think of it when it comes to dual coding, I believe. Okay. Where objects are placed within a resource diagram, it can communicate an idea. This could tell them that it's RE. This could maybe talk about there's something else going on, some sort of a comprehension about robbery, who knows, but the point is that it brings up, using images is really powerful. You can use these sorts of images, which are from the Now project as well. You've got these, which will tell you about what key concepts are. This maybe talk about how you're going to organise something, not to overload your working memory, and sort of retrieval if they are doing anything with comprehension. So we've got some when dual coding images here that you could use of. This is when you maybe want those children to take notes. Maybe want to do, you're going to tell me you're going to do some live modelling, maybe something to do with resources as well. I'm just going to scan over these points. I think it's just important that I do know them as well. I just got to give you some ideas. And you have some other ones as well here. So you have something about text, what colour you might want them, or sort of images as well. So the process of what I consider dual coding is you choose your tool to begin with, you put that together in a draft. You may want to create it on a PowerPoint for the users, choose what icons you want, and then you can review that later on as well. Okay, so this is going to be the fundamental part of the CPD today, and we're going to look at Chrome extensions and dictation within Google Docs, the educational suite. So the first one I want to talk about, I'm going to show you how these work as well in a short while, but this is Claro, and Claro is absolutely fantastic, okay? It enables you to select to speak text. You can point with a mouse in, and you can hover over it, and you can click play. So if I had a piece of text in there, you can read the sentence aloud to someone. So you may have a child with those difficulties who understand the comprehension. They've got the low cognitive abilities, so they can sit there with some headphones on, they may have the text in front of them, and they can get to read it. So that's one bit of software. There's absolutely loads of them out there, but these are some ones I would recommend, and one is called Claro. It's free from the Chrome extension web store, and I'll show you how to access that as well and how to get them on, because I'm presuming you probably have quite a few Chromebooks here at school. Yeah. Yeah, so you can use that, and you can use both of them together as well. It enables PDFs to be spoken in Google Chrome. You can highlight and click play buttons so you can hear the text, it can read it to you, you can speak into it so it dictates what you say, you can hear letters, words or sentences, you can speak back to it as well. You can also put on a coloured overlay as well. I know that you've got children with visual impairments that need sort of tinted paper with the yellow paper, you can add those on as well, which is absolutely fantastic, it does work. The next one, this is my favourite, this is called, Google Read and Write for Google Chrome. This works great because it works really well within the actual browser itself. So let's say you're getting your children to do some research, they may be on Wikipedia or on a website you've created a link to. That child sat there with all this content in front of them and they don't know how to access it at all. So by having this Chrome extension running at the top, the child can simply put the cursor at the top of like the earth here, and they can press play and it will read it to them. Once they've had it read to them, if there are any questions that need answering, they can then dictate into it, and then they can click on this button here and they can then comprehend the answer verbally. I've got a short video that I'm going to show you in a minute of one of my Year 5 students, if I have permission from his mum. He's got really low cognitive ability, and when we do comprehension on a Friday, I sit in with a Chromebook with the comprehension, and in order for him to feel independent and included, I don't want to be sat there reading the whole thing to him. I don't have the time. So what I will do is I'll put the text through Google Classroom to him, and he can use this extension and he can read it to himself, and it gives him every access to everything that he needs really to support him. So what are the advantages here? It's those students with dyslexia, low cognitive abilities, it enables them to access that age-appropriate, that age-related learning. Because a lot of those children, you know, they get it, they do understand it, but they don't have the skills to actually read and comprehend it. Like I said there as well, it makes those students not feel as alienated as such, and it also gives students independence to complete work at their own pace, and it supports students reading with their fluency and comprehension as well. Okay, I'm going to show you the short video and hope it works. Okay. Oh, hang on. Sound on this TV, is it on?
It is, but it's a process of it.
Oh, it does do screencasts there. Look at that. I don't know that.
Yeah, it's just because they've not set it up properly and it's not updated for like 2 years.
Why have they not set it up properly? Do we not go there?
No, we don't.
We don't mention Becky's lack of technology in front of Becky.
They should be on that though, shouldn't they? Really? They should be coming in and putting them on the right wireless network so people can come in and automatically mirror up.
And not have to do that to be able to get sound on.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I want to show you this short video. We're doing comprehension on a Friday. I asked Michael to come up to my office and I just showed how he uses it. I'm hoping this gives you a bit of an idea. He's in year 5, low cognitive abilities on our SEN register.
Okay, Michael, can you first just start reading it without anything first? Go.
The sun is like a star, or other stars, but much closer.
Okay. Right. Now what I want you to do is just hold that a second.
Do a quick snippet.
Now what I want you to do is get it to read it. Like you did before.
Right here.
The highlighter, but the point is I'm just trying to show you all the tools and stuff. That is reading it to him in his earphones. So this is working within the web browser. Oh, sorry. I just got this comprehension of Twinkle. I copy and pasted it onto the
A
doc.
couple of questions. So you can get them to read the question to you, Michael.
And it doesn't take that much CPD to get the children familiar and used to it.
So, and can you find that information, or can you answer the question for me? See if you can find it.
So it's over talking type and you can talk into it.
Remember the time. Was it there?
Hydrogen and helium.
Okay, so I hope that just gives you a bit of an idea there. That's what you're doing some computer there. So yeah, that is just a snippet of sort of the power of using some of the Chrome extensions within Google Docs itself. Just go straight back some sort of a subscription, but if you're a teacher, it's free. So you just need to get it set up. This may be something we need to consider talking to FCAT's central IT team about it, because what you can then do is, what I would recommend is, just get to this point there, bear with me. If you did want to get this set up, let's say you had a selection of students who do need to access this, you would need to get the Chrome extension set up on a certain login, but when they log in, it will then be ready for them. IT services should be able to set that up so you could have a bank maybe 5 or 10 of those Chromebooks ready for them. They can take that and that can be then there to use to support them with their learning.
Could we, for example, with a room like Becky's then, with a suite of computers, could we do it so that app was already installed in here, for example?
Yeah, they should now. Once when they log onto their Google account, that should automatically have that extension ready for them.
Right. So it doesn't matter what device they're using once they log into their Google account.
Well, I thought that wasn't the problem. However, I've just logged onto Becky's laptop here, and some of my extensions aren't there. Now, I don't know if it's pushing them through slowly, so probably something to look into. But it should, once they log in, those Chrome extensions should automatically be enabled for that user once they've logged in theory. But it is a powerful tool. It does work really well. And now that we've got a plethora of Chromebooks absolutely everywhere at the moment.
It might be because my profile's the main profile on Chrome for
Yeah,
this.
I think
It
you're
might
right
be
there.
different if they're on, because I think I've got Read and Write.
Have you got it?
online, so it might override.
Yeah. So anyway, I've just shown you that video there. Now I'm going to do a bit of a live demonstration of some of the things that you can use on there. I'm going to show you how voice typing works just on Google Docs itself, how you can turn on accessibility options as well. So you might have children who have quite severe visual and hearing impairments. So you can have third-party apps which work with Google Docs, such as Braille Reader and Screen Magnifiers, okay, and they work with them quite nicely. And I'm going to show you something called Click Translator. Once that Chrome extension is turned on, anyone who's using it, it's especially good for EAL students, that they can highlight any text and automatically it populates in their language for them. It's really good and really powerful. There's also a lot of other third-party extension apps that you can use as a colourblind one, that you just need to go out and have a good look at them and decide what you think is going to work for your students. Okay, so let's see how this goes. So let's just say if I was in a Google Doc here and I had a piece of text that I needed them. So you see there are lots of different apps, but actually within Docs itself there's a lot of accessibility features as well anyway. So if I go into Tools here and I go to these accessibility settings there, what you will see is you can turn on something called Screen Reader Report, and then you can also turn on Braille support. Now, obviously, you need here some third-party Braille hardware, and if you've got that and they're using it at the same time, it will work with Google Docs in conjunction together, okay? And you can also turn on these collaborator announcements, so you can know when people access and exit files, and these populate and come up at the side, and then obviously you've got your turn on your Screen Magnifier. Screen Magnifier is great, you can use it on its own so the kids can go right in on it. You can also change the size of different texts. I'll show you to use that with different third-party apps as well. But these accessibility settings really there for mainly the third-party hardware that you integrate with your laptop. Okay, so I'm just going to turn these off for now because we don't really need them. Okay, and then the next thing we've got here is, can you see the voice typing here? Now, this works quite well. This does work really well, and it even puts in full stops. Full stop. Capital letter. Now, if I was to just continue talking, well, I didn't say capital letter, but the point is that if a child needs to dictate or actually comprehend their work without actually writing it, because we know there are a lot of children who can verbalise really well, but what they can't do when it comes to writing it down is they can't get those key ideas down. However, just in this time, I have wrote a paragraph of work, but most children would be able to verbalise their ideas like that and get them down this easily, full stop.
I clearly don't know this yet because mine comes up with so many typos when I try and use dictation.
So you see, the dictation just sits in there. You can turn that on really effectively and really easily. And not only does it do that, I think it's on this one, I might have to go on one of the third-party apps, but you can also get your translate document, and you can translate it into any different language as well. So you need to do that, it'll translate it in for you. And automatically then it goes into a different language, and it's got pretty much every language that we do need. Now, one thing we were talking about there was your extensions and your add-ons. So up here, you see this little jigsaw piece. They are the extensions that are actually in your Chrome browser, which are allocated to you. Now, obviously, is it Becky? Yeah, no. Becky is, when I go up here and click on M, what you'll see is Rebecca is the default account. Rebecca is the default account, so it probably won't apply all of my settings. But if I was to go into mine and show you that, I'm just going to see how, if I can get onto it. I have to click on here. You can see I have a lot on them, but if I go to my manage extensions in here, now this is where all of your extensions will sit. You can turn them off and you can turn them on. If they are on, once you're in the Chrome browser, they will be operating and running in the background, okay? But in order to go to the actual store itself and see what there is to offer, if you click on the 3 lines at the top left, you go down to Open Chrome Web Store, you now have access to the whole of the store, and you can have a look at what things there are to offer there. Now,
we'll get onto there again, Mike. Sorry, let me back.
if you go
Also in
into,
Google Docs.
yeah, so say you're in Google Docs,
Yeah.
if you click up here onto your puzzle,
Yeah, yeah.
and go to Manage Extensions, and then from up here you have this option here to Open Chrome Web Store. What you could also do as well is, you might have it turned on, but what you can do as well is, if you Google Chrome Web Store, it should take you to it.
So will all staff not have that then, or is it just this laptop?
You should have it. I don't see why, because Chrome sits away. Once your account sits away from like the FCAT domain,
Right.
and you can actually add what extensions you want onto it.
Right, so if we go into Google Chrome,
Yeah, click on that. Yeah. There you go. You're in. So that's it. So you can search. Now in here, there is a few that I want to show you. So the great one is, like I said, the read and write. Oh, I'm going to have to sign up for it now because I'm on a different laptop. But we'll just see. So if you go into this Google read and write here and you add it to Chrome, you can always take this off later, right?
Yeah, I have had it on previously.
Oh, yeah.
So it might work.
Does it all work the same if you're using Chrome on the iPad?
Yeah.
So she can just do exactly the same.
So you click on here.
She'll have to sign in on the iPad though.
Yeah, you need to make sure you're on it.
She'll have to sign in, make sure she's signed out.
But now you have it here. Click on the puzzle and automatically populates in, and you've got it there already. And what you can, and then what you can do next is, I might have to go into the manage extensions and just make sure it's turned on, which it is. But then what should happen is, if I go into a document and I click on here, go to read and write, it should come automatically up. But it's not. Let's just check. Let me just. If I have to show them my laptop, I might try and show them mine. Because once it's set up, it does work. For some reason, it's not clicking up. I don't know why it's slow. What I might do is I'm going to try and just open up a new tab.
We've had a lot of issues of smooth wall and blocking and it being absolutely horrendous. So maybe it's yeah.
Because that should automatically pop up and open. Because if I go to mine, because I showed you the read and write working before. But if I go into my hit, you can see if I go into my manage extensions over, see I've got all of these extensions in here, some fantastic ones. So you have like carrot browsing is really good because you can actually browse using arrow keys for the cursor for those children who maybe having some cognitive issues. Coloured lines really good. You've got a colour enhancer there. that's probably the reason why.
So
It's not bringing up the.
sort that, what we need to do.
You need to speak to him, and you need to ask him to make sure that that extension is working, because once that Google Read Write is set up and working for those children who need to access it, it does work well.
Yeah.
It's just making sure it's all sort of set up for you, really.
Right.
But I think personally that the Google Read Write is a really powerful tool, and actually, like I showed you there, there's some really quick wins there within the accessibility features in Google Docs itself. So,
sorry, you know where I'm just on my Google Docs app here on my iPhone, and obviously we've got pupils that are using iPads at the minute. Do they need to be accessing the Google Docs in the browser to use even just the Google Docs add-ons? Because I can't find them on here, but I don't know if that's just me being.
you would need to be in, so say you're in Google Chrome and you open up within there, the extensions sit up on the top of it.
So we need to make sure that she's not accessing it through her apps, and that she's going through the browser.
If you try and open it in Google Docs, it doesn't actually give the extensions access there. You need to do it through there. There are some. I mean, a lot of this technology is still quite in its infancy, but it's getting there and it's getting better. But I think drip feeding is the key to it. You take small snippets of it, maybe just try and get some of those students and just see if they can, at least if you're offering it in some way, you know, it can help.
It'd be good to teach them how to do it and how to access it, because then it gives them some independence.
And it gives the rest of the class more support, because they can do,
And there are obviously some other additional resources that you can use. We use IDL, this is the dyslexic intervention program, which does work quite well. We've got things like phonics, tracker, and Leatherjoy. These are primarily your primary apps, with me having the primary focus. However, you know, you do have those children, especially in the early years of secondary, who still access a lot of this and do need that phonetical understanding. So, TT Rockstars is a good one as well, just trying to consolidate their times tables. And I think you might have a subscription to that. I always think it's really worth it, even those children who struggle with it lower down, higher in secondary, lower down, they can still access it and engage with it. So your next steps now. I would consider today to choose at least one of these digital strategies you've seen and have a go and see if you can incorporate that into your learning, teaching and learning. And don't forget to share this with your colleagues. I've obviously recorded it today. I'll put this on YouTube on our EdTech thing, and I'll share the link with you. And maybe consider about developing a plan on how EdTech will be used to support your learners with those needs. Maybe consider applying it to become some of those people to become champions of it and make use of some of the free assessments as well. Okay, I hope that's been useful today. A bit short and sweet. Thank you. Any other questions?
My only thing would be with if they were dictating their answers. If I've got a class of 30, I'm going to have kids that will be too self-conscious to read their answers out.
That is very difficult. What you can do is, I know there are some headphones with microphone functionality that really take in everything nice and neatly, and they can whisper into it. Possibly an option, but that's something that you may need to reevaluate and decide what you're going to do with those students. If they want to do some answering, maybe give them a quiet area to go and do that, because they would be very I can see them being very self-conscious of other people listening to them. But in the grand scheme of it all, we're looking at trying to ensure that all learners are engaging and accessing the curriculum, aren't they? But that is quite a big challenge.
So with that software like Google Read and Write, if we'd set a research-based task to some of the students and they were going away and they were looking at, say, the Bite-Size website, would you have to copy that text into like a Google Doc for them to?
No. How
would that work?
Because the website, it sits at the top of the website, and you click on it, and then what it does is it will play the actual website to you as well.
Brilliant.
It does that. And there's also, I didn't show you this because it's on my laptop, but there's also that translation app, and you can highlight the text in any website, and it'll change the language, and I think there's an option of reading it to you as well. What I've got is I've got some little handout sheets. They're not sheets, they're sort of digital e-copies. I'll email them to you, and on there there's loads of links of different resources that you can use, so I'll fire them across to you. But if there's anything else that I come across which I think will be quite handy, I'll definitely email it across to you. But the Read Write is fantastic, and it works on websites as well, so you should just have a play with it and see how you get on.
terms of what we need to do next then, it's just about speaking to our IT department to make sure that these apps are not blocked.
Yeah.
And then if we can encourage staff to maybe have a play with this Google Read and Write, and maybe if we have a little, like a working group about how we found it, and we can lead on that through teaching and learning, I think that might be something quite nice to do.
Just have a go, and also I'd sort of encourage them to use some of the other apps there. The Claro's really good as well. Have a go with that if they want, and just maybe instead of just keeping it narrow to Google Read Write, have a go with Google Read Write. Have a go with Claro. Have a look at just the settings within Google Docs itself. Okay, having a look at them, and also I'd probably encourage your staff to go onto the Chrome extensions browser and look at some of the other dictations. I think it's all about just having a little play around and doing some research yourself, because they may come across something that I've not seen before. Just having a go with it really, because that's what we certainly do. You just sort of, it's all about sort of trial and error, isn't it? Having a go, see what you can find.
Yeah. Do you think it's worth trying to get staff using docs and slides rather than PowerPoint? Because that's, as you say, we all use PowerPoint and Word, but it's a lot harder to put on a classroom. It's a lot harder than if you want to use these extensions. Is it something that we should be encouraging?
Now this. You've got that fine balance here, haven't you? You've got the pressure of adding extra teaching and learning onto those teachers to try and, you know, at the moment we're in this society now, or this area of education where we're trying to reduce teacher workload. So what happens is if you add more on, is that going to add more pressure? I don't know. What would I recommend? Probably not, because have you heard of Google Drive file stream before?
Yeah, I mean I use all that.
So I mean I use both of them. Sometimes I'll dip my toe into slides, sometimes I'll have a go with PowerPoint.
I think sometimes with PowerPoint you can sometimes make resources and then you put them on docs and they just don't, it just the format, and that's the issue, formatting, and sometimes you're putting the work on Classroom, but obviously it will apply to all of this. You're actually making more work for yourself by having to convert, you plan your lesson to something that's docs.
Sometimes you gently persuade your staff and you say to them, look, we are going in this direction, we are a Google school, we're going to use slides.
I suppose it's just as you're planning, isn't it? It's not like you're going to convert everything. Is it just worth mentioning that these are fabulous and you're going to save yourself workload in them? I mean, I'm a massive Luddite. Yeah.
I do my PowerPoints on PowerPoint and worksheets I do on docs.
Yeah.
But my worksheets are very